Welcome aboard to NJ.com's Giants Chat as we get set here for the Giants and the Cowboys after last week's demolition by the Eagles, 27-0 loss. We'll see if the Giants can bounce back in another road game against an NFC East team. We have with us Jordan Raanan and Nick Powell, now our Giants team. How you guys doing?
Good. What's up, Joe?
Not too much. Excited for this game on Sunday. Hopefully it'll be better than last week when we watched a pretty ugly one. Let's start with Nick. You can introduce yourself here to some of the Giants fans who I'm sure have been reading you. Welcome aboard your first week covering the G-Men for us.
Thanks. Yeah, no, it's been an exciting week. I'm really looking forward to to working with Jordan and continuing to kick butt with our coverage.
All right, guys. What was
the reckoning if that's what he's excited for?
He's pumped. The team made him pumped last week watching that game. This week, obviously, has been about trying to rebound from last week and what that was. Do you think last week was just a bad night, or were those 3 weeks the Giants played better, the camouflage here? Who is this Giants team? I don't think I know yet.
Yeah, I think it's probably somewhere in between. They had great success. Granted, it was against lesser opponents, but, they definitely everything went wrong for them the other night. Offense, defense, special teams, complete disaster. Nothing worked. They couldn't get the running game going. They lost their top wide receiver in the third quarter. The defense set up some huge plays. They went to a nickel. Was supposed to stop the other team's tight ends. The other team's tight ends went off. They couldn't stop the run as a result. Just a total disaster. Coaching on down to the bottom, to the 53rd man on the roster, jumping off sides on special teams, just an absolute mess. I think they're probably somewhere in between. They are what they are. They're a 3-3 team. They're a decent team in the NFL, and we're going to see this weekend where they can bounce back again because they did it after 0-2. So we're going to see again if they have that in them.
Guys, how about the loss of Victor Cruz here? It was obviously a devastating injury on Sunday night. Wanted to watch him get carted off crying. But now as the Giants try to move on and get through this season without their best wide receiver, which of these guys do you expect is going to now get the bulk of those catches in the big spot? Do you think it's going to be Beckham because he's the first-round pick and has shown talent? Or do you think it's a guy like Ruben Randall who's been around a little longer and I think the Giants probably been waiting for him to emerge a little bit?
I think they're going to move guys around a lot, but Preston Parker is probably going to get the bulk of the snaps in the slot position. Beckham and Randall, I think, work a little bit better on the outside. They're bigger, faster receivers. Parker has kind of that shifty, skill set that works well in the slot in the middle of the field. But Parker made the point yesterday of saying that they'll move guys around a lot. You'll probably see Beckham get a little bit of time in the slot as well. But regardless, it's going to be, obviously really, really tough to replicate Cruz's production, and also just the fact that Eli and Cruz had such a good familiarity.
Yeah, to me, yeah. I mean, Parker's going to get the snaps, but who's going to get the production? It's not really going to be Preston Parker. He's Preston Parker. He's the guy who was out of the league last year, and he can only do what his talent and skill level permit him to do. Beckham, we have to remember with Beckham, he's still a rookie. Rookie wide receivers is not that easy to come in and dominate in this league. I mean, you look at guys even like Calvin Johnson and Dez Bryant. I mean, these guys, they had, less than 1,000 yards in their rookie year, somewhere around there. They don't come in and become 1,300-yard receivers as rookies. So it really, in my opinion, the guy that is going to be the one to really step up here, and you'll probably see his numbers spike pretty good, is Ruben Randall. You had seen it actually in recent weeks. The way he's working, I'll say it, with Eli Manning has improved. Their report seems to be better now than it was at the start of the year. I mean, Randall talked about how 80% of the interceptions last year were miscommunication. I think that was a real eye-opener in the offseason or in the summer, whenever he said it. But now you see them making progress recently, and now Cruz out. He's the guy. He's the most veteran guy, which is unbelievable in regards to games played because he's 23 years old. He's still a really young guy. But, he has that talent. He has the ability to do it, and I think it's him that's the guy that really needs to step up here, and that really will step up and be Eli Manning's go-to receiver moving forward.
Guys, how is the offensive line, all 5 of them, particularly Justin Pugh, how has he responded and talked this week about the performance he had? Because, I was there with you guys watching the game. It was awful at first glance. I watched the game back on DVR, and it looked even worse It looked even worse watching it on TV. How have they talked about their performance, and do you expect them to bounce back moving forward here? Because that was bad.
Yeah, I mean, I counted him at six. Six of those sacks basically were his guy going and getting the sack. Granted, some of them weren't his fault. The first one, Eli held the ball forever, got hit from behind, But, Justin Pugh is a guy who's been a good player for them pretty much for the first year and a half of his professional career. So, he took it and said, hey, I played horrendous. I don't know why. Gave some sort of reasoning in regards to the pressure of playing against Philadelphia and everyone asking for tickets and then all that stuff building up on him. But I fully expect him to bounce back. He was a stand-up guy. Really took it and said, hey, look, I stunk. I suck. Let's move forward. That's not going to happen again. So, them and the offensive line. Look, they're able to mask the offensive line a little bit by Eli getting rid of the ball so quickly for a while. It's not that this offensive line is filled with overflowing with great talented players. It's still a decent offensive line. They have to mask it a little bit. If they can't run it, that offensive line will look bad.
And they got away from those kind of quick passes against the Eagles a little bit. Eli was holding the ball a little longer, in part because they were down and trying to make a big play happen probably. But, I think if they get back to those kind of quick decisions, it'll mask some of the deficiencies on the offensive line. And Dallas doesn't have a great pass rush, neither does Philly, granted, but it should be a little bit of an easier matchup for them this week.
Yeah, run, and run. I mean, that's going to be the Giants. That's going to be the Giants' plan. I mean, they're gonna make sure they run the ball, even if they're unsuccessful early. They're going to continue to pound the ball this week.
You mentioned pounding the ball. That's what the Cowboys are doing. Their time of possession is amazing. DeMarco Murray having off to an all-time great start to a season, and the Cowboys are 5-1 here. I didn't expect it. What have you guys seen from the Cowboys, and you're looking into what this game might be? Is this a legitimate, real contender in the NFC? I mean, they went to Seattle last week, and they beat the Seahawks. That's impressive.
Well, like I wrote in my game prediction, the bedrock of this Cowboys offense is the offensive line. They've got 3 number 1 picks on the line, including left tackle Tyron Smith, who's just having an amazing season this year, paving the road for DeMarco Murray. I think the big thing with the Cowboys, not so much for this game, is long-term, how many carries can they really expect DeMarco Murray to take on? Will he wear down at some point? But it's going to be a really tough matchup.
That's a question for them later on.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing is when they get into this game, I'm not sure how much that'll even play into.
Definitely. And Perry Fewell made the point yesterday that they're really that matchup between Tyron Smith and Jason Pierre-Paul is really going to be one to watch. If JPP can get a good pass rush on Tony Romo, that really that helps their defense kind of stop the running game, stop Romo from extending plays outside the pocket. So that's going to be. I really think it's going to come down to a battle of the trenches, and if the Giants can hold their own, they'll have a chance.
I like their chances in the trenches. Look, this is a team that has been good against the run in general for the most part for the past year and a half. They shut down almost every big back they faced last year. They hadn't let up a 100-yard rusher this year up to this point, and they went to a nickel defense. They got burned by it this past week. John Beeson was just coming back, and the defensive line didn't play well. Like he said, Jason Pierre-Paul, he's got to play better. He was dominated by Jason Peters in that game. Now, granted, I like Tyron Smith, but Tyron Smith, in my opinion, still isn't Jason Peters. So, Jason Pierre-Paul should have more success, and he needs to play better. He's been great against the run up to that game this year. Was not good the other night. You just hope that was a bad game for him and a great game for all-pro that he was going against, and that there's an improvement this week because he's really key, and his size and strength is really what helps him, makes him a great, and I wouldn't say great, but a really good player in this league.
How about on the other side of the ball? The Giants' offense obviously shut out last week. They were awful. The Cowboys' defense has been better than I think most people thought it would be. I thought it could be one of the worst in the league, and then last year they gave up a ton of yardage, one of the worst yardage ever.
Worst history, everyone said. Worst defense ever assembled.
Exactly, and so far they haven't been.
I said that, by the way.
I said it. We're wrong, but they haven't been. How much of that is because the Cowboys' time of possession, they're holding the ball? Is this Cowboys defense good, or are they playing well right now?
Yeah, I think they're okay, which for them is good. I mean, it's all relative. We think they're going to be the worst ever. Right. If they're average, that's good. So, but yeah, they have been able to mask it a little bit. If you get them on the field for a long period of time, you'll be able to have some success. Their pass rush isn't great. They're not, tremendous against the run. They're not extremely stout up front. Their secondary is susceptible in some areas, especially, against those safeties. You can have success throwing the ball. So their defense is okay. the Giants can have success, but for them it's going to begin with being able to run the ball. If they're not able to run the ball, then Dallas' defense all of a sudden becomes that much better, and then you let the Cowboys' offense on the field. That's when they're able to mask some of those deficiencies even more.
They need a big bounce-back week from Andre Williams, who had a very shoddy game against Philly. Couldn't get any penetration. So,
guys, as you go into this game here, the Giants at 3-3, bye coming up, and then the schedule obviously gets even more difficult with Indianapolis, Seattle, San Francisco, Dallas again. I asked the question earlier in the week to people on NJ.com. I want to get your take on it. And Jason Pierre-Paul threw out the words "must win" this week. In the grand scheme of things, there's no must win until you're about to get eliminated. But is this a must win for the Giants if they're going to have a real shot at making the playoffs? I mean, if they lose this game, that's 4 conference losses already, and they're all to teams that are probably going to be in the playoff hunt.
Absolutely, and it's a divisional rival on top of that. So you got to win these division matchups. You're probably going to have between the Giants, Eagles, and Cowboys. Those are 3 teams that are all capable of making the playoffs. So something's got to give there, and anytime you can get the better of one of your division rivals in these matchups gives you a better chance when it comes down to getting tiebreakers and matchups later in the season. So yes, this is definitely a must-win. That said, if they do happen to lose on Sunday, there's still a lot of time left. They still have to face the Eagles again. They still have to face the Redskins again. So there's a lot of opportunities they'll have for the rest of the season to kind of build off of the progress that they've made. But that said, you always want to get a tough divisional win on the road.
I would say this actually is a must-win game because it is an elimination game. If you look at it, they lose this game, they're 3-4. Right? The Cowboys are 6-1. They're a full 3 games back with a head-to-head loss to that team already with 9 games to play. Your chances at 3 back with 9 to play with a head-to-head loss to that team already, you need basically a miracle to win that, to have a chance to win that division. So this is an elimination game in my mind. They lose this game, division is over. They could just start looking towards the wild card to try and sneak in over there because the uphill climb will be way too much. But when you looked at these 2 games, you saw, okay, they were 3-2. They had the Eagles and Cowboys on the schedule, both on the road. The realistic expectation for those 2 games was split those 2 games. Get into the bye at 4-3. You're in fine shape. You get a week off. You get to regroup. 4-3. Move forward from there. Granted, they have a tough schedule, but you're in fine shape if you're 4-3 at the bye. There's really and with the way this team, the turnover they had in the offseason, to be 4-3 at the bye at 7-8 weeks into the season. I would have signed for that on the dotted line if that were me. So, just this is the game that they need now because they got whipped against the Eagles. So this is the other half of that little 2-game stretch right before the bye. Win this one, you're in good shape. You're fine.
I agree. But they definitely would have signed for it. They definitely would have signed for it after 0-2 to be 4-3 going to the bye, and no one would have predicted that. After that, last one for you guys. Eli Manning has played very well in Dallas in his entire career, but especially since the new building went up. Do you expect Eli to have a pretty good game on Sunday? Last week it felt like he wasn't even part of the game because of the pass rush from the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, I expect the Giants just in general. They have, they've heard all week how bad they were. They know how bad they were. They had to watch that film. The guy like Justin Pugh, he said, sitting there watching it was painful for him, which I can imagine watching him basically get beat over and over again. It's not an easy pill to swallow. They've been quiet this week. That was not an accident. That was by design. They've been very businesslike. They know what they have to do. They're coming to face a Cowboys team who is especially high, maybe too high, too confident coming into this game, off an amazing win in Seattle when you look at it. So I really like the Giants to come out and play well in this game. I expect Eli to play better. I expect the offensive line to play better. Even though his weapons, they're downgraded without Victor Cruz. Let's be honest. That was his go-to guy. He's going to need to sort of develop a new guy. But aided by a running attack, which I expect to have some success, I think Eli will have a good game. We did it again.
The lights went out.
I bored everyone to the point where the light went off because we didn't move.
And I agree mostly with Jordan. I also think it'll be interesting to see if they utilize the tight ends a little bit more as kind of a safety net for Eli in Cruz's absence. So I would look for Larry Donnell to maybe get some more a little bit more action than he's been getting the last couple of weeks.
maybe even more two tight end sets. I think that's something that they might do more of going forward. Daniel Fells has been pretty good for them as a second tight end. Maybe even you'll see some Adrian Robertson in the game. I think that's also another possibility. Giants using more tight ends because they're really, the key loss here is they lost Jarrell Jernigan earlier in the season. He would have been the perfect guy to throw into that slot spot. So now they lost him and Cruz. You're getting down there. The talent level is just not the same. I mean, they have Preston Parker and Ogletree. So going two tight ends is something I would actually expect this team to do a little bit more than we've probably seen earlier in the season.
Great stuff, guys. We appreciate a few minutes here. Safe flight to Dallas. Avoid Ebola. Come home healthy, and we'll talk to you on Sunday during the game, all right?
Yeah, if we don't see you again, Joe, it's been fun.
Thanks.
It's been real. Take care, guys. Thanks for watching, everybody.